All right, I think we're good to go ahead and get started. It looks like the people entering have kind of slowed down. So as you guys can see, today's webinar is this mid-semester cleanup. We've made a little checklist for you guys. We will be adding it to the knowledge base. If you click that Get Help button in Vault, you'll always be able to refer back to this checklist. And I'm pretty sure I can add it as a PDF as well. So if you guys wanted to download it, I don't know if this is a little old school. Maybe you guys just pass down things to new officers in like file format now, but I remember I used to get like the big binder when I got into my officer position. So if you want to print it off, put it in the big binder. If y'all still use those and pass them down, you can definitely do that. Going over to this next slide, I'm just going to introduce myself. My name's Hannah Gunderson. I'm on the professional services team as a professional services specialist. And also here with me today is my teammate, Sarah Beth. She's going to be the one manning the questions in the question chat. So you guys should see that on your screen right now. There should be a place for you to input questions just to make sure that's working before we go and get into all the details of this webinar. I do have a question for you guys, and hopefully you can give me some feedback. And just for context, we are going to be doing some officer transition content for you guys. So when you're passing on your role to these new officers, probably starting next month or coming into the new year, we want to definitely make sure the content we're making is helpful for you guys, or for the new officers, I should say. So if in the question chat, you guys should just, or if you guys could just put in maybe the thing that was the most tricky for you to learn with Vault when you were first getting started with your position, or maybe it's still tricky for you now, or maybe something that took you the longest to learn. That would be really helpful feedback for us, just so we can, again, design some content for you guys moving forward, and also so we can make sure this questions chat is working, so you guys can post those questions throughout this webinar. So let's make sure that is coming through. I do think I already see some questions. There's actually a question that came in. They did ask if a recording will be sent out. Yes, we'll send a recording. It generally takes us a few days to just edit these down so there's no pauses and stuff, so it's quicker for you guys to watch. And we'll send it out, so you'll be getting that within the next week. You'll see that in your inbox. And I do see some answers coming through. So updating rosters, viewing billing correctly, contracts, agreements. Okay, that's really good feedback. So keep sending that in. I can see the question chat's working, so I'm going to move forward. But again, feel free to keep throwing stuff in the chat, because we will use all of that to design some content going forward. So today's agenda, we have this, I called it a prep and cleanup checklist. I guess it's more cleanup than prep. I just included the prep because it'll be good for, again, going into officer transitions. After I go over the checklist, then we'll have a Vault demo. So I'll show you guys how you can actually do this in Vault. And then we'll have a live Q&A. And then at the end is just the information on the Vault Help Center and our contact info review. People like to screenshot that slide or get an updated email if they don't have it. So going to this mid-semester cleanup checklist, I have these following items listed. So if you want to take a screenshot or a picture of this now, you can definitely do that. But again, we'll be putting this into a PDF and then also uploading it to the Help Center. So if you want to just wait for that, you can, or if you want to take a picture now and you want to start working on it today, you could do that as well. So the first one is saying make sure this term's initiated members are listed as initiates. Now, maybe it won't be initiates for you guys. It could be, and some fraternities have it listed as brothers or initiated members or sisters or whatever the terminology is. Basically, just whatever that initiated member status is, you're going to want to make sure those have been updated. It can be like a little confusing for new officers coming in, especially if a bigger chapter, for them to try to manage that and know the difference between, what were our fall new members, what are our COB members, what are maybe the spring recruitment new members. Just make sure all of those people who were initiated either this past month or maybe are going to be initiated this upcoming month, that their status gets updated in Vault. So that way, when you guys transition positions or just when you go into the new year, all of that is up to date. Add new members. Now, I think it would be a little late, but if you haven't added new members from recruitment this fall, definitely do that. I know there's some people just going through recruitment now, so maybe you're a school that has a later recruitment. Again, add your new members. But I also added this in here because I know a lot of schools have been doing COB. So if you did start getting those COB members, or if that's again going to be maybe members you add in December, make sure those are added to the roster again, so your account's updated. You're able to bill those members for the new year. and so any incoming officers aren't having to do a lot of cleanup. Update vault user access. So this isn't going to be so much for new officers because I don't think a lot of people have done transitions yet, but just cleaning up any old ones. I know some of you guys have old advisors, maybe old officers still on there from previous semesters, any of that. I'll show you guys how to clean it up, get them off your vault user list. Because again, when new people are starting to come in, they may look at a name and be like, I have no idea who Sarah Beth is. I don't know if they need to be on there. Is that our advisor? Is that an old officer? So definitely clean those up before. Again, going down, then we have adding any missing transactions from this term. So it could be one-off charges like t-shirts or tickets for semi-formal, or maybe fines for not going to chapter, whatever it may be, adding those. Confirm there are not any billing adjustments that need to be made. I know we had a pre-submitted question about this, so we will be going over it, but this would be things like maybe somebody was enrolled in an in full payment and then they came to you and they said, hey, X, Y, and Z is going on. I need to be put on a payment plan. We want to make sure that their accounts are adjusted. So we're removing that in full charge and adding them broken down, maybe their payment plan charges, or making sure they're not double billed. I know sometimes what will happen is you'll move them to a payment plan billing group, but they never remove the in full charge, so they're almost getting double charged for the semester. So we're going to make sure there's no adjustments that need to be made. Archive old members. So if you have people who have graduated, their balance is paid in full, you really don't need them on the roster, archiving them, and then paying any outstanding bills or invoices you guys have and reviewing notifications. So that seems like a long list. I know I talked a little bit, but I promise it's super quick, and I will show you that right now. So I'm going to switch over to Vault so we can start going through this checklist. Give me 1 second to pull up that screen. Okay, and y'all should be looking at Vault now. This is our test account. If you've been to our webinars before, I'm sure you've seen it 100 times. We have Peter listed here as our admin, and you can see there's action items. Those are the notifications we'll go over at the end of the checklist. But just going back to the first item we had on our checklist, which is making sure this term's initiated members are listed as initiates. To do that, we're going to go to the chapter tab, and we're going to go to update member statuses. Now, potentially, I know, again, when we started this, people said something that was confusing was updating rosters and billing. Something that may be a little bit confusing for some people in this is that depending on who your national or international headquarters is, you may update your member statuses differently. So this is the general way to do it. You're going to go to this chapter tab, click update member status. You can see up here it's filtered. So I'm going to check all the new members. And you can see we have Daphne Bridgerton. I love Bridgerton. I've been reading the book, so she's our new member right now. We could click her, and if she was, maybe brought on this fall and she just got initiated this month, we could put in her initiation date of maybe it was the 14th. And then we're going to change her status to initiate, and we'll click update member status. And now she's going to be listed as the initiate. So if we go back to new member, there's no longer any new members listed. They're all going to be initiates. Now, if you go to that page and you don't see a way to update your members, it's probably because of one of two reasons. Either you're going to be making membership updates outside of Vault into your database, and it's going to push automatically into Vault. So if your national or international headquarters uses a database that's not Compass, which Compass would be the OmegaFi one, then you're going to make the updates there, and they're going to automatically push into Vault. You won't have to do anything. So maybe after, I don't know if it processes overnight or what the time frame is exactly, but you would update it there. And then if you logged into Vault the next day, you'll see that Daphne was no longer on that new member list. She was an initiate, but you didn't have to do anything in Vault. Another thing that may happen for you guys is maybe you do use Compass, our database, and you have to do membership initiation reporting. What you'll have in that case is there will be a tab between this house tab and the billing tab, and it'll say national, or it will have your chapter's letters there. So if you were a KA, for example, it would say like it would have a Kappa and an Alpha listed. And then you could go there, and if they were a chapter that used Vault for this, then you would click member initiation reporting. You'd have to submit those initiation reports to your headquarters. And then once they process those and approve them, it will update the member statuses. So if you have any questions on where your chapter falls in one of those categories, you can definitely ask an advisor, or you can reach out to your client ops specialist. So if you use the operations support email to contact them, or you want to call in, and I'll give you that information at the end, you can call in and they'll be able to tell you how your chapter updates the statuses. This is just the most basic way, or standard way, I guess I should say, of doing it would be just chapter update member status. On this page too, if you notice a few initiates that maybe throughout the semester have dropped or are going to be temporarily away because I don't know, whatever extenuating circumstance came up, you can update them here as well. So you could click their name and then you would change their status to disassociated or suspended or other, and you'll be able to fill those in. If you use one of those statuses, you'll probably have to give a reason. So if you were changing the status to disassociated, then you could put a reason in here. So either they were expelled, disaffiliated, or maybe they were released. So if they were a new member that never got initiated, you could put it in that way. And then again, you'll scroll to the bottom and you'll click update member status, and it's going to update their membership status for you. Now, something I do want to remind you guys of is when you update a member status, it doesn't automatically update their billing status. So if we use this example where Andrew may be disaffiliated throughout the semester and we change him to disassociated or suspended, whatever it was, and we submitted it, he will still be on our active billing roster and he will be getting billed for the semester unless we mark him inactive. Now, depending on your chapter's contracts, maybe that's how you want it to be. So maybe if you get suspended, you're still required to pay the national dues for the semester since the chapter's been charged by your headquarters for that. And even though they've been suspended, they're still obligated to pay that. Then you could leave them in active billing. But if they do not need to get any charges moving forward, what you're going to want to do is go to billing, and then you're going to click update billing status, and you would see Andrew listed here, and you're going to have to change his status to an active, and then the reason you would fill in here. So if he was expelled, you would say expelled. Scroll down, click update billing status, and at that point, Andrew's not going to get any charges moving forward other than late fees. So if your chapter had late fees turned on and he is responsible for this past due balance, he's going to keep getting late fees on it, but he's not going to get any of the new charges that your chapter has moving forward. Any questions on that before I move on? Because I know that one could be a little bit tricky. Can you turn off late fees after someone goes inactive? Yes. So late fees are in Vault when you set them up. It's kind of all or nothing, but if there was a circumstance where Andrew was the only person you needed late fees turned off for, you can reach out to your client operations specialist and they can go in on the back end and just turn off late fees for that member. They'll put in a reason. Or let's say there's a payment agreement, you could turn off late fees up until a date. So if you gave Andrew till the end of the year to pay without late fees, we could put in that date so he gets no late fees, but then starting January 1st, they'd turn back on. So just reach out to your client ops specialist and they can help you with that. Okay, I don't see any other questions on this, so I think I'm going to move on to the next one. Oh, yes?
Or I don't think you already answered this, but did you see the one about the appropriate status for one who's, I think you did maybe answer that. I'm sorry.
Oh, status for someone who has resigned. So
Yeah.
if I'm using the example on this account, update member status, if somebody resigned, I don't remember it off the top of my head. I think I would probably do disassociated because it wasn't forced, and then you could just say they disaffiliated. But this again could change depending on your national or international headquarters. I know some of y'all have all different statuses. So some, it may say like released or resigned, or there may be paperwork you have to submit. So I would just look and kind of click through these to see if any of them make sense. But if you have questions, again, I would reach out to the client ops specialist because they'll be able to give you an answer that's specific to your chapter and will have like the right terminology. This again is just some general terminology that we have on our test account. But I'd probably, if your account's like this, I would say disassociated, and then I would have the reason be disaffiliated if they resigned. My next item on our checklist is adding new members. So we're going to be under the chapter tab again. Same disclaimers as before. You may have to do this in an external database and it'll automatically push into Vault. But if you do everything within Vault, you're going to go to the chapter tab and you're going to click add new members. An easy way to tell if your chapter doesn't do it this way is when you go to this page, these two buttons aren't going to be available for you. So you won't be able to add them here. And that's a good indicator that you're going to have to do it in your database and it'll automatically push in. But if you do it through Vault, you'll be able to click here and you'll click add member. If it's COB, a lot of times there's only a few of those, so it may be faster just to do these one by one. Anything that has this asterisk, you'll fill in their information and you'll click save and continue. Just a little, I would say, piece of advice, I'd probably do an email that's a personal email and not a school email, just because if you ever get into a situation where they've passed due balance and they graduate, if it's going to their school email, they're no longer going to get notifications to pay on their balance. So you're definitely going to want a personal email so they're actually seeing that, even if they are no longer at the school because they graduated or left school or whatever it may be. So definitely fill those in with personal. You'll go through here. Once you fill all of this in, you can click save and continue, and it's going to add them to your roster. Any questions on that? That one's pretty easy. I don't think I see any. Okay, awesome. And then now we're going to go into updating Vault user access. So some of y'all may know this, some of you may not. It's kind of in a sneaky spot, I feel like. To update Vault user access, you actually go to this little gear icon. I believe we call it the power icon, but it looks like a gear. And then, or settings icon. You click this, and then you're going to click Vault users. And then here you can see all of your users that have Vault access. Now, if we remove or edit this, this has nothing to do with their MyOmegafy account. So don't think if you delete someone here, they aren't going to be able to pay their bill. This is only their access to Vault. And you can see user reason. So if you see undergraduate officers, those are usually fair game for you guys to remove. But if your chapter is one that's in partnership with Omegafy, so your national or international office is partners with us, and you see these international staff members, you cannot remove these. I mean, technically you'll be able to click this little trash can icon, but we get notified and we have to add them right back. It's just part of the partnership. So leave any of those international staff members. If you're looking at it and you're pretty sure that that person shouldn't be there, maybe it was like your old leadership consultant and you know they maybe no longer work for your national office, then again, you can email your client ops specialist and say, hey, this person, Amanda, no longer works for headquarters. Are we able to remove them? And they'll be able to work with your headquarters to make sure that they can be removed, and we'll remove those for you. But anyone that's an undergraduate officer or an advisor is fair game for you guys to edit. So if you're looking at this and maybe Daphne no longer needs to be a Vault user, you can click this trash can icon and it will remove her. We'll click OK and it'll take it off. Or if maybe Daphne gets a new position, we can click this little pencil icon and we can change what her access is. So right now she can only see the communication tab and she can send emails, but she can't do anything else. If maybe we want her to be able to view the chapter roster, we could say view here and click submit. That way she could see, I think it says she's a new member educator. That way she could see the new members on the roster. She won't be able to edit anything under this tab, but she'll be able to look at it. You can edit it that way. Any questions on removing / editing these? Oh, I do see one. Can we add advisors on our own? Yes. So you'll be able to add a user. Now this will pull down from a drop down. So you have all of your members up here, and then down here, I think it should have your members, and I don't think this account has contacts, but if you had a contact, the contacts will be listed here. If you don't see the person you want to add here, what you have to do is go to the chapter tab, and then you're going to click contacts, and you'll have to add them as a contact first. So you can see these people already have Vault access, which is why they weren't on that drop down. But you would add a contact, so you could say Hannah Gunderson, finance advisor would be my title or whatever it is. And then you'll be able to go back here, Vault users, and then you'll click add user, and there'll be like another bolded section that says contacts, and you'll be able to select them there and then give them access. Let's see.
Someone's asking about if the gear icon doesn't show on their screen, but permissions need to be edited.
That may again be one of those things that's specific to your chapter. So maybe depending on your national or international office, I would take a screenshot and then email it to operations support. I'll have that email at the end of this, operations support at omegafy.com. And then they can look at it and help you out with that. So if it's not supposed to be there, they'll just give you a reason why. But if it should be there and it's just not showing, then they'll be able to work with our software support team and get your account updated so you can view that. Another reason it potentially could be is if you don't have administration access. So if this is no access or just view, you may not be able to edit this gear icon page. So it could be that as well. So I'd email operations support and then they'll be able to give you more context, just because I'm not looking at your specific account right now to see what the reason would be. Any other questions, Sarah Beth, before I move on?
I do have one question, but I don't know if you were going to look at updating billing groups at any point.
Yeah, I can go over that right now.
Okay.
That was actually, that's perfect. So that's next on our checklist.
Perfect. Yeah, they're asking specifically, and I know you'll probably hit this while going over it, but when it comes to like new members, do they need to stay in the new member billing group or be updated? So I'll let you.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Those are good questions. So to update billing groups, just to start really basic, and then I'll get into those specifics that Sarah Beth is bringing up, you go to this billing tab and then you just click update billing group and you can assign people to a billing group or update it. So up here you can see there's no filter, but if we wanted to just look at people in the active billing group, we can do it this way. And let's say, I'm just going to pick on Andrew because he's at the top, but maybe Andrew wants to be changed to a payment plan billing group. We can click active payment plan and it's going to update his billing group here. When this happens, it doesn't for the semester go back and adjust all of his charges automatically. So if he was in the active group first and billing's already gone out, he got charged in full. Now going forward, he's going to get charged in installments, but it's not going to make up for the fact that maybe he missed 1 month of a payment plan and already got charged in full, so you may get double billed. I'll show you how to update that in just a second, but before I do that, I want to answer Sarah Beth's question about updating new members billing groups once they're initiated. So again, this is going to kind of depend on the chapter, but I would say like 99% of the time, you are not going to adjust a new members billing group during a like active like set of billing. So if you're on fall 2024 billing and there's 4 cycles, even if they are no longer a new member and they've been initiated, they need to finish those 4 cycles of fall 2024 before being moved to an active payment plan. And that's just because their charges are for the first semester are going to be based on the fact that they're a new member. So they're probably getting a lot of those one-time charges that you guys all paid when you joined your fraternity or sorority. So maybe it's like a new member fee, and maybe they get like a one-time like technology fee, or I don't know, whatever it may be. They had to pay for their PIN and all of those things. You want to make sure they pay all of those one-time new member fees first, and you also want to make sure that they're not paying fees that only apply to initiated members. So if in the middle of the semester we switch them from new member to maybe an active plan, what would happen is they paid all of their new member national dues, and then now they're going to have to start paying active member dues before they were really like required to do so. So most of the time your national office is looking at the number of initiates you have at the start of the semester. So they aren't having to pay as an initiate in fall semester. They're going to be considered an initiate in spring semester. So starting in spring, you're going to want to move them over so they can pay those national dues for initiated members. But this current semester, you don't want to move them because they're going to end up essentially double paying their national dues and fees, if that makes sense. And it's a little tricky, but just leave them. Once the semester starts, you leave them, let them finish that semester's billing or that quarter's billing. And then the next semester or quarter, you're going to move them to an initiate group. I hope that answers that question. But going back to the example I used where we just moved Andrew to the active payment plan, what we can do is if we go to billing and billing overview, I'm hoping they have billing set up on this test account. I haven't been on it in a second. Okay, you can see here that this active payment plan, or not active payment plan, excuse me, this active billing group got charged a lot of dues right up front. So they got this $414, whereas the payment plan group only got charged $225 cycle one. If we look at the dates up here, what's today's date? The 23rd. We are just about to start cycle 3. So cycles 1 and 2 have already gone out, which means Andrew got charged $414 on the 23rd of August. And then on the 25th of September, he got charged $75. Now he's moving down to this billing group here, which means cycle 3, he's going to get charged this 111, and then cycle 4, he's going to get 211. But what didn't happen is he didn't get these charges broken down right here. So his billing's going to be like a little bit wonky. So what we need to do is go to Andrew's account, and we need to reverse these first 2 cycles here for the active group. And then we're going to go down here and add the charges that he missed. Does that make sense before I go to his account? Just that like general idea? I think so. Okay. So I'm not going to actually go through and like adjust all of these, but I'll show you a few examples just so you get an idea. The reason I'm not going to do all of them is it would be, I think, really painful and boring for you guys to watch me add a credit for each one of these charges and then also add the new charge. But I'm just going to take a picture of this on my phone so I can refer back to it. And then we're going to look at Andrew's account really quick. So if we go to member list by billing group, we can see Andrew is listed here. And if we go to his transactions, we can see all of those fall charges he got. So those are all listed. What we need to do is add transactions to his account to offset these first sets of charges he got and then re-add the old ones. So again, I had taken a picture of the overview of billing. If you're on your laptop, you can probably do a split screen. I'm just not going to do that because I think it'd be hard to see in a webinar. Or if you have 2 monitors, you could put up the billing on one monitor and then have this add transactions another one, or you could take a picture, whatever works for you. But we're going to go to add transactions, and we can do these. Each of these is one section. So the first thing we're going to do is remove maybe he got charged. Oh, I just X out of it. Cycle 1, he had gotten charged $200 for chapter dues. So the type we're going to do is a credit, so you want to take that off his account. The description is we're going to say chapter dues reversal, and then I'm going to say put this in here just for context. So BG, that's just short for billing group. I'll say billing group adjustment. So that way, if I go back or a new officer looks at his account and they're like, why do you get credited for chapter dues? We can see why. And then the income account is going to be chapter dues because that was what the original charge was, and the amount was $200. Now, what I would do then is go through all of those other charges he got cycle 1, fill them in here, scroll to the bottom, and then we click create transaction. And we can see on his account, this is pending, tomorrow it'll post. But this charge matches up, or excuse me, this credit matches up with this charge up here, which means they're going to offset each other. So once I did that for all of these charges he got, then I would be able to go in and add transactions for the one he missed. So I'm again only going to add one because I just think it would take too long to do all of them. But for the active payment plan group, they actually didn't get charged at all chapter dues for the first cycle, so maybe we'll just add like the national dues he missed. So you would go in here, you would do charge, description, national dues, and then again, I'm going to put in billing group adjustment so I know it's because he got moved. That way there's no, why did I get double billed, or why am I getting this so late? We can see why he got it. Income account will be national dues. And I got to scroll down and find that. Here we go. And the amount looks like it was for $100 for the payment plan group. So we'll put that in. Again, we would fill in all those ones that he missed, and we can click create transactions, and you'll see again it's down here pending. So you would have a lot more transactions because you'd have to reverse all of these and then add the new charges, but that would just be a way to clean it up. Hopefully this had been done a little sooner so there wouldn't be so many, but if there are, it's not the biggest deal. We can go in and do it. If you guys have a scenario where maybe you have 2 members who had the exact same scenario go on, where they were both in the active billing group and they both now need to be in the payment plan group, instead of doing it one by one for the members, you can also go to this billing tab, and then you can do add transactions to a group. Uh-oh. I think my test account's going a little crazy. sorry, y'all. So if we wanted to do it for a group, let's say both Andrew and Peter had this happen, we could select both of their names, go down here, and then we'll be able to fill in all those transactions. So we could put in all of those credits. This is just, I shouldn't have closed out so quick to show you. Oh, that's basically saying when you go to click credit, it will ask you if it was a payment. If it was like a payment that you collected outside of Omegafy, you want to add it as a payment, not a credit. That's just a side note. So that was that pop-up. I just moved out of the way really quick. But anyways, back to what we were talking about. If both of these members had the same scenario, you would go through, add the credits for all of those charges that they got cycle 1 and 2. You would go to next step, preview them, confirm it, and then you could go back and then add all the ones that they missed. So that's kind of a faster way of doing it if you have a group of members that did that. Now, if your chapter maybe like had a big mix up and a lot of billing is wrong, or majority of your chapter had a mix up of billing, that's when I would recommend just reaching out to your client ops specialist because they may be able to do this faster. So since we can like do things on the back end, if it was like an entire billing group of like 30 people who got incorrectly charged, or maybe got their billing group moved and it's just getting like a little bit overwhelming for you to handle, you can email us and we'll be able to do like a large group at once. But if it's just a few, that will be on y'all to do, and this is how you would do it. Any questions on that? I think that's probably our trickiest topic that we would have to go over. I think that's usually what people have the hardest time with, understandably, just because you have to match everything up.
No questions on that. Oh, something just came in. Never mind. That is not related to this. Is about member status, so I will get to that. But no questions on.
Okay. We can answer that other question during the Q&A. So don't worry, your question will get answered. Okay. So the next topic we had on our cleanup checklist, again, kind of goes with this, but this is adding any missing transactions from the term. So to me, I was thinking more things like, again, t-shirts or fines or whatever. If you have a lot of one-off transactions that you've been postponing putting on members' accounts, you could go to member list by billing group like I showed you and click their name and then go to transactions and then click add transaction to their account. Oh my gosh, I went fast on the computer. Add transaction and add it that way. Like maybe he bought a t-shirt, or you can kind of do a shortcut instead of having to go to everyone's account, and you can go to billing, add transactions en masse. And then this will let you do a ton of different transactions at once. So we could say, Andrew, he got a charge, and we'll say it was a t-shirt in the income account. I think there is like a t-shirt or something on here. I don't know. I won't waste time going through all this, but we'll just say chapter dues for this. I think there is technically an income account for like merchandise, and the amount we'll say was $20. So we could put that on there. And then maybe we're going through and Noah had skipped chapter, so he's getting charged and it's a fine. Maybe we'll say chapter fine to make it more specific. And so we'll use the fines income account. I think that's on here. Yeah, here we go. And maybe that's a $15 fine for not going. And you could go through and do all these different one-off charges you haven't added to people's accounts. And once you fill them all in, we can click create transactions, and it's going to post those to everybody's account. So here we can see all of our pending transactions for the day. These were those adjustments we did. And then down here are those one-off charges that we just added. Any questions on adding those transactions? Nope. Okay. The next one on our checklist, we kind of went a little bit out of order, was confirming that there are not any billing adjustments that need to be made. So again, that would be those people who are switching billing groups. I just showed y'all how to do that, so we can move on to our next one, which is a lot quicker, a lot easier, which is archiving old members. So to do that, you can go, oh, my mouse isn't working. We can go to the chapter tab, I believe. I haven't done this in a minute. Actually, maybe under billing. Yes, archive member records. So it's billing, archive member records. And you can see a list of people that have, they have to have an inactive member status and they have to have an inactive billing status to be archived. So you can see all these people are eligible to be archived in theory based on their member status. But we have a note here that says we can't archive them because of their balance. So because these people still owe money, we are unable to archive them. If we wanted to get rid of Susie, what we would have to do is view her account, look at her transactions, and you'd have to determine, does she actually owe this $856? If she does, we can't archive her. If she doesn't owe this, like let's say maybe she dropped over the summer, we forgot to mark her billing status as inactive and she got charged all of fall dues, you could go in and add those transactions to reverse the fall dues. And then tomorrow, once those posts in her account balance is zero, then you can go back to the billing tab, archive member records, and you would be able to select her name here. It's just this checkbox, and then you would click archive members. Now, I recommend doing this for anyone who's not going to be returning to your chapter, just because having a long roster or a long inactive roster just makes it difficult for you guys to keep track of those inactive members that do owe you money. You would have to be sifting through a lot of $0 balances to find the ones that owe money. So you definitely want to go in here and archive them, but don't think that's deleting their information. We will still have that information on our end. So if anything ever came up where, let's say Susie was archived and she needed to look at her account for whatever reason, or you did, you could message us and we'll be able to make her account viewable for you guys again. So you could go and pull that transaction history and download it if you wanted. That rarely happens, but again, if you ever needed it, we can pull them back, but I recommend just getting them off your roster so that way they aren't clogging things up. The next thing we have going is paying any outstanding bills and invoices. Again, definitely do this before the new officers come in, because they're going to have a really hard time if they come into their new position and they're getting a bunch of emails from vendors being like, you guys owe us money, or here's late fees, and they're going to have to go through and be like, do we actually owe money? Is this like a phishing email? Is this scam? Is this, whatever it may be. So you want to go through and go to payments under the billing tab or bill pay tab, and you'll be able to see any payments that you haven't paid. Now, we don't have these available to be paid on the test account just because it's not a real account and we don't want to draft money or do anything crazy on this account. But you guys will be able to have this approval status. It'll be a checkbox and you'll be able to click it, and that means it's approved to pay. And it will take that out of whatever bill pay fund you had chosen for it. Now, if you don't have money in your bill pay fund, this payment's going to sit unpaid until money becomes available. So this one's $100. If we're looking at registers, until we had $100 in this operating fund, that is going to sit there. Once the $100 is available, it's going to send that check to your vendor automatically. You won't have to go back in and reapprove it. Once it's approved, it's ready to go as long as there's money available. So you'll want to be able to go do that. Something else that may happen though is maybe you approved it, but it still says it's like pending approval or needs approval. That's probably because your account is set up to have 2 approvals. So you will have to check it, and then another officer or advisor who has access to your bill pay tab will have to go in and give that second approval. So that way the payment gets sent out to your vendor, and we'll mail that for you guys. All right. Let me actually have one more thing to this. I was going to move on. If you have an unpaid bill that's not showing here, so maybe you just had an invoice mailed to you or emailed to you, you can do one of 2 things. You can either forward that email invoice to, I believe it's billpay@omegafy.com, and they'll upload the payment here, and all you'll have to do is click approved, or you can click this add button, bill, and you can fill in all the information from your invoice yourself. So you'll just go in, fill in the blank. You'll be able to upload that invoice image here, and then you'll click submit and it'll show up here and you can approve it. So if you have an unpaid bill that's not showing here, that's how you would add it. Either send it to us and we'll add it for you if you don't want to fill in all those blanks, or you can click here and add it. All right,
Hey,
and then yeah.
Will you go back to that page and show under the little icon the instructions for things, and then like in case you need an overnight check, under the little
Are you talking about this one?
the question icon? No, when you go in to fill out the info.
Oh, if I go here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What was the question?
If you go to the little
this right here?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Overnight checks.
Okay, yeah. Down here we do have, I'm not gonna be able to see it because I have the support button. I think it's how I have it zoomed in. But if you, on yours, you'll probably be able to see it because it won't be so zoomed in for like a webinar. But on the print instructions, I believe it says that you just put in it's an overnight check. Is that correct, Sarah Beth?
Yes, just
Can't see
make sure
that
you're
right now.
putting it in the print instructions. Uh,
Hmm.
that way it's, there's something that it like pulls in the system. Whereas if you don't
Hmm.
have any print instructions and you just email for us to upload it, depending on how often they're checking the email, that can get missed if it's like really close to the 2 p.m. cutoff. So your
Hmm.
best bet is just updating print instructions on that.
Yes. Thank you, Sarah Beth. That was a good thing to bring up. I had forgotten about that. All right. Oh my gosh, I am so zoomed in. Here we go. All
One
right.
more thing,
Hmm.
Hannah, on like while you're on payments and stuff, can you go over transfers and how to schedule them?
Hmm. So if you want to transfer money from one account to another, so maybe you wanted to pay this and you need $100 in your operating account, you can go to transfers here and you'll click add and you have two options. You can do a one-time transfer or a scheduled transfer. If it's scheduled, you can choose a begin date, end date, and how frequently you want it. So maybe you want it to take $100 from your external bank account and put it in your operating fund or vice versa. Every single day, Monday through Friday, or you want it to do weekly, you could select that. It'll let you choose which day of the week, and you'll just fill this in, choose where you want it from and where you want it to. Now, again, this test account doesn't have like an external bank account attached to it, and y'all may not have that either, but you can transfer it between bill pay funds. So maybe we wanted it to go from the operating into the national dues and fees fund. You can add a note and then you would click submit and that will schedule it for this time frame. It'll do it weekly on Wednesdays. Or if it was just a one-time thing, like we needed $100, we would do like a one-time transfer. We could say $100. And this test account isn't a great example just because we don't have a ton of accounts and none of them have money in it. But let's say we had like an external bank account, like you have like a Chase or Wells Fargo or whatever it may be. You could select it from this drop down. So we'll pretend that was an external bank account. Transfer to operating. The transfer type, you would have an option between an ACH or a wire. Wire will charge you, but it'll give you that money the same day. I recommend planning a little bit ahead so you don't have to pay that fee. I think it's $75 or $70. I can't remember off the top of my head, but an ACH transfer will be free. It just takes a couple days. So you'd be able to choose a transfer type. You'd click submit, and it's going to move that money from your external bank account into your operating fund, and then it would be available for this payment to go through. Once the $100 hit the account, this would process and send, assuming it was approved. Any other questions, Sarah Beth, before I move on?
Yeah, along with that, we have a question about the best way to move funds from, I guess, from a bill pay account to the
Mhm.
affiliated chapter. Um,
Like they have,
oh, I'm sorry, not, I was thinking it was saying ACH, AHC from the housing account
okay.
to the affiliated chapter.
Hmm.
Um, they're saying they're
So,
having issues with the check not getting to the chapter. So,
okay, sometimes depending how y'all did it. So some of you, this is like kind of specific. Some of you guys have housing accounts that are connected to chapter accounts, both within Vault. And if you needed to move money from one to the other, it's technically not a transfer because you're two separate entities. It would be a payment. So you would go to add and you would click bill, and where it's going to show up under here, instead of vendor, there'll be, I want to say the phrasing is like internal, or there's like a separate section. So instead of vendor, it'll say something else and you'll see the chapter listed and you would be able to select their name here and then you'll fill this out. And instead of mailing a check like we do for all of our other vendors, those like internal Omegafy vendors, it's going to just transfer the money to their account. So it'll be like an internal transfer, but it's still going to process as a bill because it has to show as an expense for the housing account and it's going to have to show as income for the chapter since you guys are separate entities. That may be what you're talking about. If you had just sent like a physical check, then the chapter is going to have to receive that check and then mail it to Megafy, or maybe you mailed it to us, and then our I don't know if it's our bill pay team or payments team. I can't remember the exact names, but whatever team's in charge of getting our mail and processing those checks will process the check and deposit it into the chapter's account. It just depends how y'all do it. Okay, any other questions before we just have one more item, and it's an easy one. I don't think I see
So we
any.
are good on my end.
Okay, perfect. Oh,
Sorry. Are refunds made strictly by check, or do they go to credit cards? That's
they
actually
can,
a pretty good one.
yeah, refunds can go to credit cards. There's just like a couple rules in place for it to be able to be done that way. So one, the member would have had to pay with their card. So let's say they made like an e-check payment of $500 for their dues for the semester, but they need a refund and they want it refunded to the card. We're not going to be able to do it because they paid with an e-check. If they had paid that $500 with their card, then we can put it back on their card, as long as it's within a certain time window. Now, Sarah Beth, you may have to remind me, I believe it's 6 months. Is that correct? Or is it a year?
I'm not particularly sure on the exact time frame, but there is a time limit, and I think 6 months sounds correct.
I want to say
But
it's 6 months. Yeah.
yeah, I
So
would
they would have
verify.
had, yeah, you may have to verify that. You could either email client ops, and they'll let you know. But as long as, I want to say it's a 6 month window. I haven't had to do those in a minute. But like, let's say they paid for their fall dues and they need a refund. As long as they have the credit balance on their account and they'd paid with a card, we'll be able to put it back on their card if it's within the 6 months. And you'll still be able to click add like this. So it'll still have you put refund, and you'll see on here, it'll have you fill in all this check information. You still have to fill that in even if it's a card refund. But we know to do it as a card because it's a requirement. So if they had paid with a card and it was within 6 months, it does not matter if you guys put in this check information, we have to put it back on their card. So the system will automatically flag it and they'll process it that way. But yeah, still fill this in. Otherwise, it's not going to let you click submit. The other thing you could do is you can email like your client ops specialist and then just ask them to submit the refund and they'll put in the refund for you as a check or a card refund. That was a good question though. Any other questions? Okay, perfect. So going on to our, oh, yes, Sarah Beth?
Sorry.
No, you're okay.
Well, actually, go ahead and go. We'll save it for then.
Okay. So then the last thing on our checklist is just checking this notification bell. This test account, unfortunately, I'll never be able to get rid of these notifications because I can't update these invalid addresses because they're not real people. But for your chapter, you'll just want to make sure those are all filled in if that was your notification, whatever it may be. You'll just want to go through these items. You can click it and then it will take you to the page that you need to address whatever that action item is. So that would be the last thing for you all to go over. But now we can open the floor for questions. I know there's a few more that we said we would go back to. So Sarah Beth, if you want to start going through those, I can definitely start answering those.
Yeah. Is there a way to credit accounts automatically for early incentive rather than by doing it by hand each semester? So I think like talking about
a prepayment discount. Yeah. Yes. We can do that depending on your national or international organization. Now, if your chapter is partnered with us and you guys have national dues, I don't believe it will let us do those prepayment discounts there, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's like certain rules around that.
Yeah, if you have any sort of specific routing, or you may have heard that split, but if you have any sort of specific routing to anywhere else, you won't be able to do a prepayment discount.
Mm-hmm. But otherwise, if you don't have that, you will be able to set it up. Now, I haven't, again, this is another thing that I'm a little rusty on, so I'll look at this really quick. I don't know that it'll let you set it up here. I believe you have to reach out to your client ops specialist and they set it up on the back end. Is that right, Sarah Beth?
Yes, that is correct. And then I will say one thing that you could do But I don't know that it would necessarily be any less work than going in and adding it in math. But you could have a group for like prepayment discount and then have it as a credit,
Mm-hmm.
and add people, like have it as a credit in the cycle too.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have to move people into that billing group as like if they paid early,
Mm-hmm.
or if you know they're going to pay early. And so that gets a little tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. So the answer to your question is potentially yes. We would have to look at your specific account, which I know y'all may be tired of hearing us say, but as you guys know, a lot of chapters are very unique. So we have a lot of different versions of this set up for you guys to make it work best for your organization. Do you have any other questions, Sarah Beth, that people have submitted?
yeah, one that we mentioned we go back to earlier was about, they were asking about when you were talking on the member status changes
Mm-hmm.
for new members,
Mm-hmm.
asking why the only option was to change to released, um,
Mm-hmm.
which I did ask what organization they were with, but I'll let you, if you want
Yeah.
to go back to that screen and show, or whatever.
Yeah. That most likely, if that is the case for you, so I went to the wrong screen. Update member status. We don't have any new members right now, but um, if you were like on this page, we're just gonna have to pretend right now. Like again, we'll click Andrew, um, and you clicked here, and the only thing said or released, but Andrew had been initiated, and let's say he was still a new member. What that most likely means is you have to submit an initiation report. So I'm assuming I'm gonna go on a limb. I think either you have the national tab right here between these two, and you'll click in here, and then you'll submit your initiation report. And once it's approved, it's going to automatically update them to an initiate or whatever um, the terminology is, or you're going to have to do it again in like your external database. And once it's updated there, it's going to push into Vault and it's going to update them. But since you have the option to mark them as released, I'm assuming it's within Vault and you're going to have to submit the initiation report and have it be approved by your national office.
Yeah, I think looking at their answer, it looks like that is probably the option. Um, or also similar to that, if there's some other option you need besides release, your national may require you to fill out some type of form, and then they
Mm-hmm.
would update it on their end. But typically, like what Hannah said, initiation report is going to be like if you're trying to move them to initiate status.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
I think that is it for what was asked during
Mm-hmm.
the webinar. And I'm just double checking. One question we did receive beforehand was about stale dated checks. I know we've talked a lot on checks, but specifically, if you wanted to go over what happens with stale dated checks.
Mm-hmm. So if you guys send a check to a vendor or you refund or reimburse one of your members and they don't deposit that check, I believe within 90 days, um, we're going to void the check automatically for you. And then your chapter will have the option to just leave it as is and not send a new um, payment to them, or you can have it resent. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah Beth, because again, I haven't been in the role that necessarily does this exactly, but I believe they still will send you a message here. So you'd go to your little mail icon and there should be a message that says, like, giving you a notification that we voided out a check because it was stale dated. And you can reply to that and say, please reissue it. Or you could say, like, we no longer need it, and then our team will take care of it for you. But just know, no matter what, whether you reply to this or not, we did void the check. So after that, you're just letting us know if you want us to send a new one or not.
No, I believe that's right. You get that notification because I think also possibly with that notification, it may ask if the address needs to be updated
Mm-hmm.
before reissuing. I think that's all the questions we have though, Hannah.
Okay, perfect. I will switch then back to our PowerPoint just because I have that contact information for you guys. Here we go. Okay, so you can see here we have this operations support at omegafy.com email. That's how you can get in contact with your client ops specialist. Just pointing out here, it is operations with an S, so make sure there's two S's when you type the email address. Some people will put operation support and then miss that first S. So operations support at omegafy.com. You can also call us. So this is our 800 number. Once you get into that 800 number, it gives you options, and then you can just select whichever line you are. So you're probably going to go into like an admin officer line and then be connected with your client ops person, and they'll be able to help you. And then you also have the in-app help. So that yellow get help button, or I guess it's more of a tab on Vault than a button, but it's in line with all your tabs. You can click that and it's going to go to the knowledge base. So we have a lot of help articles in there for you guys to be able to review. I'm going to go back just to show you. You can click this button here and you can search this. So if you just search keywords, it'll pull up different articles, or we have it broken down by tabs. So if you have questions about the bill pay tab, you can click bill pay and see all of these different articles we have written. And then also what I'll show you is I'm going to upload that checklist, that PDF under checklist here. So we're going to add one that will say like mid-semester checklist. Maybe I'll put it under here, like mid-semester checklist, and you'll be able to click in there and then download it. So that will be available for you guys. And then the last section I'll show you is the videos and webinars. We will be emailing you guys this webinar, but you can also always go to videos and webinars. Whenever we're done editing it and uploading it to our YouTube channel, we will link them here. So you can see these are different videos, how to, tax filing videos, whatever, but the webinars are down here. So you can see our August one, if we clicked in here, was listed, and then you can click the play button and watch any of the webinars that you missed or maybe attended and wanted to refer back to. But other than that, if we do not have any other questions, I'm going to go back to this screen just so you guys can screenshot it. But that is all I have for you guys. I appreciate you sticking it out. I know this went a little longer than anticipated, but I think we had a lot of good questions. So I was happy that we were able to go through those and give you guys answers, the answers that you needed. So I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening, depending which time zone you're in. And definitely join us for our next webinar. I believe it's going to be on officer transitions, but I could be wrong. Look out for the email. You'll be able to see it there. But yeah, y'all have a great rest of your day.